Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. The Ukrainian president addressed the House of Commons virtually on Tuesday. In a 12-minute speech, Volodymyr Zelensky pleaded with the Prime Minister and members of Parliament for more sanctions, military aid, and the establishment of a no-fly zone over Ukraine. APTN's Fraser Needham reports.
That's a standing ovation parliamentarians gave Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Tuesday. In an at times emotional address, Zelensky highlighted the long-standing friendship between the two countries and the fact that roughly 1.4 million people of Ukrainian descent live in Canada. But he also called on Canadians to put themselves in the dire situation Ukraine currently finds itself in.
You've heard about the bombings. Currently, we have 97 children that died during this war. Can you imagine famous CN Tower in Toronto? If it was hit by Russian bombs.
Ukrainian president also called on Canada to use its membership in NATO to push for a no-fly zone over Ukraine.
Justin and all of our friends of Ukraine, all friends of the truth, please understand how important it is for us to close our airspace from Russian missiles and Russian aircrafts.
And creating such an airspace is something the interim Conservative leader says Canada should lobby for.
We need to protect at a minimum the airspace over the humanitarian corridors so that Ukrainians can seek safe passage away from the war zones and to allow humanitarian relief to reach those areas under siege.
Conservatives also called for Russian President Vladimir Putin to be prosecuted at the International Criminal Court for war crimes. For his part, the NDP leader says Canada should continue to increase sanctions against Russia because they work.
We know that Putin does not care. President Putin does not care about the people. He does not care about his country, but he does care about his wealth. And we know the way to attack Putin, the way to make sure that he feels the pressure of the sanctions, is to target him where it counts, and that is to target the wealth that is held by his allies and oligarchs.
In his address to Parliament, Prime Minister Trudeau made no mention of a no-fly zone, but he did say the government would be imposing further sanctions on Russian oligarchs.
With allies and partners, we're imposing crippling sanctions to make sure Putin and his enablers in Russia and Belarus are held accountable. Today, in line with our European Union partners, I can announce that we have imposed severe sanctions on 15 new Russian officials, including government and military elites who are complicit in this illegal war.
Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, Russia ramped up its bombardment on the Ukrainian capital today, devastating apartment buildings with shelling and airstrikes. The mayor of Kyiv has imposed a 35-hour curfew in response to the attacks, urging people to stay in their homes or take shelter. He says this is a very difficult and dangerous moment, but many residents he's spoken to say they have no intention of leaving.
They really upset what Russian soldiers do it with civilians. But everyone, I talk to the people, simple people, instead to make evacuation to the west of Ukraine, they ask about the weapons and told, we're ready to be in civil defense and defend our houses.
Klitschko says the Russians are committing war crimes and violating every international law. But he says Ukrainians are united and will fight to defend their homes and their values. Well, Canada has taken a hit with high gas prices. But how does that affect Indigenous-owned gas stations in Indigenous communities? APTN's Tamara Pimentel has the story out of Siksika Nation in Alberta.
Mona Royal and her husband Daryl McDonald own M&R Gas and Boy Chief Trading Post on Siksika Nation. While the business has been a success over the past 20 years, they've taken a bit of a hit with skyrocketing gas prices and the pandemic.
Through COVID, we went through months where myself and Daryl, we didn't pay ourselves. We had to literally wait, until we were able to pay ourselves because my employees came first.
The gas price is really interfering with our community and our business. It's hard to compete with Petro, Shell, Esso. Where we draw our customers and our non-native customers is our friendliness.
But owning a gas station on reserve comes with its own struggles. As the station sees higher prices and fewer customers, Royal says the couple still has to keep up with all of the electrical and heating bills and insurance. That costs more on a reserve too.
They assume that there'll be more break-ins, there'll be more damages, there'll be more, the everyday things that happen on the reserve will occur here. So we have a lot of insurance things that we have to deal with that maybe a non-native that's not on the reserve, they don't have to deal with it, but we do.
How is M&R preparing for more gas hikes?
There's really no way to prepare but to continue what we do, keep our employees happy, keep our customers happy, continue to create a nice, gentle atmosphere here, continue to just be there for each other.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Siksika.
A ruling made as part of a child welfare court challenge is now being challenged. The Canadian government is appealing a recent Quebec court decision regarding federal Bill C-92. That's the one that gives First Nations the power to create and maintain their own child and family welfare services. Last month, the judge upheld most of Bill C-92, but ruled that provincial governments can pause First Nations plans if they contradict provincial child welfare laws. In a recent statement, federal ministers asked how communities can implement their jurisdiction over child and family services without being unduly impeded by provincial laws. So Ottawa will now ask the Supreme Court of Canada to provide direction. The province of Quebec is also appealing to the Supreme Court. Time now for a quick break, but first a look at what our Quebec Bureau is working on. They recently put boots on the ground in Manawan, an Atikamekw community currently in a face-off with forestry officials. Here's a sneak peek.
To the Atikamekw Nation, maple is medicine, and Manawan is the self-proclaimed birthplace of maple syrup. Their maple groves facilitate tradition and industry. Except after hundreds of years, one family is now forced to start over after their grove was destroyed by an unauthorized logging venture.
Quand un autochtone dit non, qu'il soit entendu qu'on l'écoute.
I'm Lindsay Richardson, and I'll have more on how the logging situation is affecting the Nistassinan, the ancestral territory of the Atikamekw of Manawan, coming up on APTN National News.
Welcome back to Nunavut now, where the Legislative Assembly is meeting this week in Iqaluit. They just announced that one of the most important MLAs will not be in their seat for the rest of the session. Nunavut's Premier, PJ Akiaruk, put out a statement today saying he will be isolating at home after his family was exposed to someone who later tested positive for COVID-19. Nunavut's new COVID guidelines say that people in close contact with a COVID-positive person are no longer required to isolate. Until he returns, Education Minister Pamela Gross will be filling in as Deputy Premier. Still in Nunavut, there are over 36,000 islands in the Canadian Arctic, most with traditional names. However, in the 1960s, many of the islands received English names. And now one of those English names is Nunavut's women's advocacy group asking for change. The islands are located about 40 kilometers outside of Iqaluit in Frobisher's Bay. That big island there that's known as Frobisher's Farthest. The smaller islands to the east have a racist name aimed at First Nation women to the south. The executive director of Nunavut's Status of Women Council is lobbying government for a change.
Speaking to our council members and president, we're definitely in agreement with lobbying the government to change the name to its either traditional place name and or something that's more relevant to that island and how we are Nunavut with naming things traditionally.
MMIWG advocates and families are reeling at the news that there are dozens of cases sitting with the Thunder Bay Police Service. Sharon Johnson knows that pain firsthand. Her sister Sandra was killed in 1992. Sharon joins me now. Sharon, great to have you with us. Can you tell us a bit about your sister's case?
So my sister's case is, it remains unsolved to this day. And there was a team of investigators that reopened the case. Well, I guess it was never actually closed since 1992. But going back about, I would say 10 years maybe, 10 to 15 years, we had a team of investigators that approached myself and my family, and they told us that they were going to be starting from scratch, basically, and looking at the case again. So yeah, it's still open.
When was
and unsolved.
Sorry, Sharon. When was the last time you spoke to investigators?
The last time I spoke to the lead investigator was probably around last fall, like maybe November. I think it was in November. I had just had a brief chat with him.
What was your reaction to the fact that Thunder Bay Police apparently have at least 25 outstanding cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls?
I feel a sense of relief, I guess, for other family members that have been working out in the community to raise awareness about their about their murdered loved ones and missing loved ones. And I know a lot of those people personally, and there's a sense of relief there that when I heard that, yeah.
Sharon, you're a long-time MMIW advocate there in Thunder Bay. Did that number 25, that come as any surprise to you?
Oh no, sadly it doesn't, because of the numbers that I heard over the years from different grassroots organizations, mostly grassroots people that have been doing their own work, and you don't see or hear about those numbers, on the news. But between us as family members, we share that information with each other, and yeah, it wasn't really a surprise.
Sharon, with all the investigations taking place with the Thunder Bay Police, how confident are you in that police service?
I wish I could say that I'm confident, but from what I've seen over the years, like even with like the different cases that that you hear about in the news, like with the youth, with the youth inquest, and also like Stacey DeBungy's case, that was a big one, right? Mm-hmm. And to hear about how it was, just the way it turned out for the family for I don't know how long. yeah, I just found that hard to believe that happened. Still to this day, that he drowned like that, and it just wasn't possible for that to happen. Like anybody could see that. So I don't know. I'm not 100% confident in Thunder Bay Police, and but like I do continue to keep my hopes up that that's going to change. Maybe this time around.
Sharon, we'll have to leave it there, but we do appreciate you speaking with us about this.
All right. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
You can find much more about what's been going on in Thunder Bay over on our website, aptnnews.ca. Time for another quick break, but first, here's a look at the story we're working on.
I didn't live my life. I literally endured every day and every moment.
I'm Charlotte Morit-Jacobs, and coming up soon on APTN National News. A Métis 60s scoop survivor is retracing his time in care, including the Yellowknife Orphanage, before being sent south, disconnected from his northern family for decades. We'll follow the search for missing records, compensation confusion, and a demand to belong.
I kept getting letters back saying, well, why don't you try this place or that place, social services, maybe Yellowknife. And
that's coming up soon on APTN.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Our viewer Dorothy Daniels sent us this picture. Dorothy was told that some deer had been sighted sharing lunch with some horses near Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan, and she had to see it with her own eyes. Now we all get to see it too. Thanks, Dorothy. If you have a great picture, email it to share@aptn.ca, and it might be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at Wednesday's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, +3 in Halifax, -2 in St. John's. 14 below in Nain, -7 for Happy Valley Goose Bay. +6 in Montreal, 0 with flurries in Chibougamau. 5 above in Sault Ste. Marie, cloudy and +6 for North Bay. +6 in Thunder Bay, 7 above in Sioux Lookout. +1 in God's Lake, 0 with snow for Norway House. +2 with snow in Barons River, 2 and sunny in Winnipeg. 5 above under sunny skies for Regina, +2 in Saskatoon. +4 with snow in Meadow Lake, -1 and snow in the Ronge. Over in northern Alberta, +5 with snow in Fort McMurray, 5 above in Grand Prairie. 7 in Edmonton, 9 in Lethbridge. Rain and 10 for Vancouver, 11 with showers in Victoria. +8 in Prince George, 7 and cloudy in Smithers. -20 for Old Crow, +3 in Whitehorse. -12 in Yellowknife, +5 for Fort Liard. -17 in Sax Harbor, 21 below for Paulatuck. -21 in Chesterfield and Whale Cove. -26 in Resolute, 24 below in Clyde River. A Canadian software testing company that trains then hires Indigenous people has acquired a Saskatchewan consulting firm, opening up more job opportunities in the province. APTN's Leanne Sanders has that story.
Jennifer Dubois spent more than 10 years in the banking industry when she saw a Facebook ad for Plato testing. They were looking for Indigenous students to train to test software. With the pandemic starting and an immunocompromised mother, it was the right opportunity at the right time.
At the time, I was taking a management information systems course through University of Regina. It was my final course for my degree. And taking that just really opened my eyes as to the possibilities that possibilities of employment outside of a bank. So I applied and I got accepted.
Plato CEO Keith McIntosh says social media ads reach the target audience of Indigenous young people. His original software testing company evolved after he took part in a leadership conference right after the Truth and Reconciliation report was released.
We were talking a lot about the calls to action, and I was talking about my business, which our biggest problem is finding enough people to do the work. And the calls to action say that the Indigenous people, First Nations, don't have enough opportunity. And how is that possible that we're in a country where there is a shortage of workers and a shortage of work at the same time?
His goal became training Indigenous people to be software testers, which doesn't require a degree. McIntosh says testers simply ensure that a new app works the way the client wants it to.
We have tested and currently are testing everything, from a mobile app on your phone or a Facebook game on Facebook to enterprise management systems, personal systems, or finance systems. We test for lottery corporations. We test for oil and gas.
At the end of Plato's free 5-month software testing course, students are offered a job and can work anywhere. The company has trained 215 students and have 250 people on their payroll. Their salaries range from $40,000 to $150,000. Right now in Fort Qu'Appelle, Jennifer Dubois is testing a new app for Connexus Credit Union.
I really like working with Plato because I get to work from home. And I'm not around very many people except my own family, and I don't put gas in my car. My expenses are cut back.
Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
A new episode of Face to Face airs in just a few minutes' time. Tonight our guest is Texas-based investigative reporter Tristan Atone. We'll be discussing climate change and the impact the Russian invasion in Ukraine could have on Indigenous peoples south of the border.
Oil and gas infrastructure here in the U.S. is really being eyed as key to sort of dealing with Russia. The big thing I think that we have to be thinking about here is how that's going to impact Indigenous communities who are already fighting pipelines and oil and gas infrastructure. I suspect that's going to mean pushing a lot more permits for everything from drilling to construction. Generally there's, as I said, I think a lot of the environmental costs are being downplayed or ignored.
You can watch our entire interview with Tristan Atone in less than 2 minutes' time on Face to Face. And be sure to tune in live tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern as we put harvesting rights in focus. And for news anytime, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.